the second boss? Blackwater Behemoth. All right, let's see what this one is.
Hello and welcome back to Fatboss TV. Today we're looking at the second boss in the Eternal
Wait, this is
Palace
underwater?
raid, the highly anticipated underwater boss, which is the Blackwater Behemoth.
This
What
encounter
the
has you
fuck?
fighting the boss on a platform for a while, dealing with some pretty simple abilities. After so long,
What?
it will slither away to another platform far from the raid. You
That's
need to chase
fucking
it
awesome.
down and interrupt its cast that will otherwise
Wait, holy
one-shot
shit,
you.
this is really cool.
Now, before the fight begins, you want to interact with the oxygen-rich membrane. This will give
I
you a
would hope
permanent
so.
buff which stops you from losing breath and gives you a 100% increased swim speed.
Okay.
This makes the fight actually doable and the bad parts of underwater fighting much more bearable.
Yeah.
Now throughout the fight you'll have a permanent debuff which reduces all incoming healing by 100%. The only way of removing this is by gaining bioluminescence.
Okay.
On each of the boss's platforms you'll find 2 pufferfish, and when you kill them it will spawn a cloud. When you move into a cloud you'll gain a buff which allows you to be healed for its 45-second duration.
This
You'll
is
be on
awesome.
each platform for around a minute and a half, so you want to kill one pufferfish straight away to gain the buff, and then kill the other just as your debuff drops. This will
Okay.
allow you to be healed for the entire time that you're on a platform. Staying in the confines of the platform is very important. If you have the bioluminescence buff whilst above open waters, you'll gain a new 5-second debuff. And if you don't leave the open waters, you'll be one-shot as a deep-sea lurking monster will shoot out from underneath you.
Oh
Now,
shit.
tanks, you don't actually need the pufferfish to gain the bioluminescence buff.
Oh,
As
shit.
the boss will apply a 15-second debuff, which
This is
essentially does
awesome.
the exact same thing. Tanks do still need to swap on the boss because he does gain
This
a
is
stacking
really, really
attack
cool,
speed
man.
buff, which only resets when the boss starts hitting a new target. We did this every 15 seconds or so.
Okay.
Whilst tanking the boss, it's vital that you stay within melee range at all times. The moment that you leave melee range, he's going to start hitting other people, or he's just going to do massive raid-wide damage.
So he's stuck in place,
Now,
basically.
moving on to some of the stuff the boss does to the raid. Aside from occasionally sending out some dots on players with its toxic spine attack, which simply just
Can I
needs to
get
be
that
out-healed, the boss will cast Shock Pulse. This cast will push all players away from the boss over
Okay.
its cast, and at the end it will deal a burst of damage to the entire raid. Now, the further from the boss you are when this cast ends, the less damage you take.
Okay,
So you want
so
to
you
be
just have to run
reasonably
away.
far from the boss when the cast ends, but you want to make sure you stay on the platform, as otherwise a fish
Wait a second, the Demon Hunter and the Rogue just stood in melee, I'm pretty sure. They didn't even move.
will come and eat you, and tanks just make sure you get back to the boss nice and quickly.
Okay.
Now, the last ability the boss will cast whilst on the platform wasn't actually active when we last tested the boss. This is the boss's bioelectric feelers. Every 4 seconds, the boss will do a scan of the raid. If it finds any players within 5 yards of one another, it will shock those players for 50k. This damage doesn't seem to ramp up with
Okay.
the amount of players in the clump, but 50k damage per 4 seconds on the entire raid seems like something that you'll want to avoid.
Yeah, that's
this
pretty
will force you
bad.
to spread 5 yards apart
Alright.
from each other, something that might be difficult if you don't take the vertical space into account. Now, how this interferes with players picking up the pufferfish cloud is somewhat unknown, but it's safe to say that you'll either all want to pick it up at once and just take a few hits on the raid, something that could probably easily be countered by cooldowns, or you want to pick up the buff in a staggered way, reducing the amount of people hit by their bioelectric feelers. Just do make sure that you pick up the buff before it despawns.
So we're just gonna have everybody run in there and pop CDs. Like, that's easy. Like, we can probably do that stupid ass shit on Heroic too, even. Like, it's not even gonna be a big deal.
Alternatively, this ability might just be up for certain periods of time, meaning that you'll want to get the buff whilst the boss isn't scanning for players. We
Okay.
just don't know at the moment. Either way, once you've fought the boss for so long and it has gained 100 energy, it will slither away to a platform far from the group and begin to cast Cavitation.
And that's whenever you have to
If
interrupt
this
it.
cast does go through, it will deal 370k damage to the group every 2 seconds. So you need to get to it and interrupt this before it wipes you.
Okay.
So you will need to travel through open water, which will kill you after 5 seconds if you have that bioluminescence buff. So you need to make sure that is dropped before you start swimming across.
Oh, wow.
Towards the back of the platform, slipstreams have formed. Moving into one of these...
So if you have the bioluminescence buff, I see. So if you go over open water with the bioluminescence, then the things will eat you. So you have to wait for the debuff to expire, then you have to run over. So you can't just pick that debuff up whenever. That's actually really good. I like that a lot, because there's no way you can make it over from like point A to point B in like 5 seconds. There's no fucking way. Holy shit.
This will give you an 11-second buff, which increases your movement speed whilst forcing your character forward. You need to navigate towards the boss whilst avoiding jellyfish that are scattered along the route, as
Okay.
touching one will give you bioluminescence, attracting the one-shot fishes. Once we reached the new platform, we waited for everyone to arrive
That's
before
good.
interrupting the boss.
That's
And
real
the fight
good. I like that a
largely
lot.
repeats from here. You just gain a pufferfish buff at the start, deal with the boss's abilities, gain another pufferfish buff 45 seconds later, deal with the boss's abilities, and
Right.
the main change between the platforms is that there are now gaps in them that count as open water. You need to make sure that you're not pushed into or otherwise swim into these areas for too long, otherwise you will be eaten whole.
Oh.
But largely, that's it for this fight.
Oh,
So what do we think?
okay.
So when we first tested this boss on Heroic, it was an absolute
That was Twitch,
mess.
not
you were
me.
moving super slow because they hadn't put the swim speed increase in. The transition with the jellyfish, there was hardly any of them, so you didn't even really
that
need
was
to
Twitch.
avoid them. You could just swim directly to the platform. Also, the boss was doing a crazy amount of raid-wide damage. So we actually ended that test early. I think we killed it. I can't even remember. I just mentally blocked it because we hated it that much. However, moving into Mythic, with the swim speed increase, with the transition actually having jellyfish to dodge, it feels like a much better fight, and it's nowhere near as bad as we initially thought. The only thing I would say, though, is that have they been a little bit tame? They've definitely got the underwater theme down because, well, you're underwater, there's fish that would jump out and eat you.
It's so cool.
So they got the theme down. But mechanically, did they play really safe here? Could they have done more things that are sort of surround the whole idea of being underwater?
Well, of course they could have, but here's why Blizzard doesn't want to do that, is because basically the boss, I mean, look at the boss, right? He literally does like 2 things. He does 2 fucking things. He does the fucking electrocution whenever you group up with somebody, and then you can get eaten and he runs away, and you have to interrupt him. Like, this is the easiest fucking boss in the game. And Blizzard doesn't want to make it too hard. Why do they not want to make it too hard? It's because they expect everybody to hate underwater fights. So because everybody hates the underwater fights, then they want to make it as simple as possible, right? I think that's really the main reason, is they're afraid to make people do something that they don't want to do. I think that's basically what it is. I know an easier boss. Well, yeah, I can think of a number of them too. But overall, I think that's their strategy.
Of course, you need to be a little bit careful. They made it so, you know, there's mechanics where you start to suffocate. You know, you're physically running out of breath. There's so many ways you could cheese it. You just stack druids, they go in aquatic form.
Yeah.
You know, undeads, they have slightly longer time in which they can breathe in. I think that's still a thing. There's
I think they're like can't they like breathe
underwater.
forever now?
From like
underwater?
as an example.
Exactly, yeah. So, you know, they are limited somewhat. I don't even know what I would personally add. I just feel like they could have done something more that somehow worked with the idea of being underwater. And even if they didn't do that, I think just the general mechanics as they have now, of course we didn't get the opportunity to see the feelers, but could they have added more mechanics, especially as the fight goes on? Because as you move from one platform to another, it's essentially the exact same thing, except the platform is slightly smaller, or it has gaps in it.
That's not really
which
a
makes
big deal.
Things, you know, such as the
it's not a big
pushback,
deal at
it
all.
makes it a little bit more difficult, which is kind of cool. But could they have added something else? Could there be megalodons coming out the wall and chomping at your feet, applying dots to people, or some shit like that?
Or
one-shotting
If there's
you,
a
yeah.
megalodon chomping at your feet, that is a one-shot mechanic.
You get what I'm saying, right?
I do get what you're saying. There isn't really much
This boss
use,
fight
as
does
you said,
seem
apart
awesome.
from being spread out. And if your raid
I
size
like
is
this a
small
lot.
enough, you don't even need to go up. You could still be 5 yards spread in a 10-man group easily. Probably even a 30-man group if you really wanted to. Like, feel like, yeah, fuck you, Blizzard, I'm not going to swim. You, in theory, could all be on the platform still. So it would be interesting. Maybe there are like slipstreams that will try and push you off the platform if you're at certain heights. The whole idea of using vertical space. They could definitely do a lot more with that idea. But yeah, maybe they're just trying to play it safe. It is, as you said, kind of like their first underwater boss in a while. Maybe they're just...
It's the first underwater boss
They're
ever.
afraid.
Well, yeah, I suppose. It might be one of the 5-man, like a long ago that I've
I can't
forgotten
remember
about.
one at
But
least.
with a raid
Like,
boss.
yeah, that's actually a good question. When was the last time that Blizzard actually did do an underwater boss? I want to just go ahead and pause here. That one's basically over. I want you guys just to see me get this mount here real quick. SSC? I mean, I don't even really consider SSC like really an underwater boss, like the lurker below. Yeah, I don't think they've really ever had one. Watch me get the mount right here. Watch me get the mount. Watch me get the mount. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Did you see the G2A oopsie today? No, I didn't. I have no idea about that. I've never heard about that at all. Okay, just give me 1 second. I'll look at the rest of this.
At least it's the first proper underwater one, and maybe they were just trying to make.
I'll do another
that
run.
Worked.
Might as well.
It looks kind of cool because it does, but it is early in the instance. They probably didn't want to go overboard, and they were just like, "Let's just make this work. Let's just make it maybe a loop."
Well, it already is overboard because it's in the water.
Cool. And have they done that? Probably.
Yeah, I think they again, I don't want to take too much away from it. It is a good start, but I think they could have done so much more.
Aesthetically, this boss is fucking awesome. Like, let's just get that out of the way right now. Shady G2A offers to pay journalists to run pre-written article defending them. Okay, remind me to watch that whenever we finish all of these videos here, okay? I'd love to watch that. I'm assuming that that video sounds like it's either a quartering or a Jim Sterling video, right? Based off of the title. Yeah, but right now I want to finish the rest of these. Anyway, the point that I'm making here is that this boss is fucking awesome. I really like this boss. Aesthetically, it looks really, really cool. And at the end of the day, like being in like a cool environment while you're fighting a boss like that, I do think does matter a lot in like a lot of ways. So I like that a lot. This is overall a good boss. Asmongold.